It's time to break down the Buffalo Bills' Week 2 opponent, the challenges they present, and what the Bills need to do to deal with them today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino from the Draft Network, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Happy Wednesday to you, and thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day. And as a reminder to you, we are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Locked On NFL. Well, folks, it is now time to turn our attention to Week 2 and the matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the Tennessee Titans. So this will be our comprehensive primer. We are going to talk about the Titans from every angle and get ready for Monday Night Football. So let's start with the nuts and bolts of the game. The Buffalo Bills will play host to the Tennessee Titans in Week 2. The game will be played on Monday, September 19th at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York. It is the Buffalo Bills home opener. The game will be broadcasted on ESPN. Steve Levy is on the play-by-play. Louis Riddick and Dan Orlovsky are the game analysts, and Laura Rutledge is the sideline reporter. Including the postseason, this will be the 50th all-time meeting between the Titans and the Bills, and the Titans have a pretty commanding lead on the all-time series with a 30-19 record against the Bills. The Bills and Titans have played each of the last 4 years. Both have 2 wins apiece, but the Titans have won the last 2. And of course, last year, Tennessee won 34-31 in a game we all remember. The Bills had the ball 4th and 1 from the Tennessee 3-yard line with 22 seconds left in the game. The Bills went for it. Josh Allen slipped. Jeffery Simmons made a tackle, and the Titans won the ball game. If you recall, the Bills entered the fourth quarter with a 31-24 lead, but were outscored 10-0 in the final frame. Josh Allen was 35 of 47 for 353 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Ryan Tannehill, the Titans quarterback, was 18 of 29, 216 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. And then Derrick Henry, the Titans star running back, had 20 rushes, 143 yards, and 3 touchdowns. But if you recall, 76 of those yards came on 1 run. The remainder of the game, he had 19 rushes for 67 yards. And we'll talk more about Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill in just a moment. But another big thing from that game last year, the Bills lost. The Bills were 2-5 scoring touchdowns in the red zone. So a lot of things that didn't go the Bills' way, despite scoring a bunch of points and Josh Allen having a productive game. The Bills enter this game 1-0, coming off of a 31-10 Week 1 win over the Rams, while the Titans lost at home to the New York Giants. Brian Daboll, head coach, 21-20, a very surprising result there in Week 1. The Bills do have a rest advantage in this game, obviously playing on Thursday, and the Titans played on Sunday. But I did think it was interesting to share that as head coach of the Bills, Sean McDermott is 8-6 with a rest advantage. Meanwhile, under Mike Vrabel, the Titans are a very impressive 10-4 with a rest disadvantage. And so the Bills have not consistently taken advantage of their rest advantages, and the Titans have done a very good job of managing their rest disadvantages. Let's talk about their head coach, Mike Vrabel, 47 years old. He's in his 5th season as an NFL head coach, all with the Titans. He has a 41-25 record, been pretty successful. His first 2 seasons with Tennessee, they were 9-7. He went 11-5 in 2020, won the division, and they went to the AFC Championship game that year. And then last year they were 12-5 in the number 1 seed in the playoffs. Last year, they also won the division again. So they've won the AFC South each of the last 2 seasons. Little background on Mike Vrabel. I'm sure you all know that he was a 14-year vet in the NFL, spent a lot of time with the Patriots, finished his career with the Chiefs, and then he immediately became a coach, and his rise to becoming an NFL head coach was pretty quick. So when he retired, he became the linebackers coach at Ohio State. Then he became the Texans linebackers coach from 2014 to 2016. He was the Texans defensive coordinator in 2017. In 2018, he became the Titans head coach. And so this guy very quickly became a head coach, and he's been very successful to this point. I do like to always bring up the challenge record of the opposing team and their head coach. And so far for Mike Vrabel in his career, he challenged 18 plays. 9 of them have been overturned. So he's 500, but he went 4 for 4 last year. And it's interesting, his first season, he was 0 for 5. And so the challenge success of Mike Vrabel has gotten a lot better here after he got through that first season. The quarterback for the Tennessee Titans is Ryan Tannehill, 6'4", 217 pounds, was the number 8 overall pick in the 2012 NFL draft out of Texas A&M by the Miami Dolphins. He was traded to the Titans after the 2018 season, and he's been a lot better for Tennessee than he ever was in Miami. In 6 seasons in Miami, a passer rating of 87. In 3 seasons in Tennessee, a passer rating of 102.1. And the Titans, with Ryan Tannehill as their starting quarterback, Tennessee has a 30-14 record. So they've had a lot of success with Ryan Tannehill as their quarterback. So let's laser in even more on Ryan Tannehill last year, 2021. He completed 67% of his passes, 219 passing yards per game, 21 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, and a passer rating of 89.6. One thing that stands out to me about Ryan Tannehill last year and really throughout his career is that he's a very sackable quarterback. Last year, he was sacked 47 times, and for his career, he's been sacked on over 7% of his dropbacks, and it's over 7% with Miami and with Tennessee. So that's been a consistent thing with Ryan Tannehill, is that he's very, very sackable. I want to get into some of his metrics, and just keep in mind that we're not quite deep enough into the 2022 season for me to talk about 2022 metrics. So I want to focus still here on 2021 as it relates to Ryan Tannehill. His average time to throw last year was 2.56 seconds, which was 5th fastest in the NFL. So a quick triggered quarterback that gets sacked a lot. Kind of an interesting dynamic. As far as Ryan Tannehill goes, he's much more effective when he gets the ball out quick compared to when he holds onto it. Let me give you some splits here. When Ryan Tannehill gets the ball out in under 2.5 seconds, he completes 72% of his passes and has a passer rating of 97. When he holds on to the ball for over 2.5 seconds, he only completes 62% of his passes and a passer rating of 81.2. So a 10% dip in completion percentage, and he loses 16 points in passer rating when he holds onto the ball for more than 2.5 seconds. So you do want to make him work progressions and hold onto the football because he becomes a less productive player. Ryan Tannehill, in terms of average depth of target, 7.9 yards from the line of scrimmage. That was 21st in the NFL last year. And as far as deep passing, and when I say deep passing, I always mean targeting somebody 20-plus yards down the field, that was only on 9.4% of his attempts last year, 29th in the NFL. Not a guy that really pushes the ball down the field very frequently, and when he does, he's not very successful. He only had a completion percentage last year of 30% on targets, 20-plus yards down the field, and that was 30th in the NFL, just to give you an idea of how poor that was. And he had a 71.8 passer rating, which was 29th in the NFL. So he doesn't throw the ball down the field very often. When he does, it's not very successful. So not a very good or productive player pushing the ball down the field. He's not successful doing that. Play action is a big part of what the Titans do. 29% of Ryan Tannehill's dropbacks are play action passes, which is 9th most frequent in the NFL. And that's a big part of how they set up their vertical passing, is they like to get the run game going and then, of course, hit you with the play action fake and push the ball down the field. Now, his weapons are really different right now than they've been in the past. And so kind of a difficult situation there for him to really take advantage of anything vertical down the field, not just because he's not very successful, but I don't know that they have the weapons to really be a vertical passing offense, if that makes sense. When it comes to the screen game, 11.4% of Ryan Tannehill's passes are screens. That's 10th in the NFL, so pretty frequent when it comes to, running the screens. And then let's talk about the pressure splits. I always like to get into this. When you pressure quarterbacks, they become worse. It's tried and true. Look at Matthew Stafford last week with the Bills. We talked about it. You get pressure on quarterbacks, they're not as effective. Ryan Tannehill is no different. When Tannehill's kept clean, he completes 72.5% of his passes, 7.7 yards per attempt, and a passer rating of 99.2. When he's under pressure, he only completes 54.5% of his passes, 5.3 yards per attempt, and a passer rating of 66.5. So his completion percentage falls 18%, and his passer rating drops 32.7 points, and he also loses 2.5 yards per attempt. You want to make any quarterback worse, and especially Ryan Tannehill, you get pressure on him. Now let's talk about the blitz splits. With no blitz, Ryan Tannehill completes 67.7% of his passes, 6.7 yards per attempt, and a passer rating of 84.9. With the blitz, he completes 66%, 7.9 yards per attempt, and a passer rating of 100.9. So blitzing Tannehill isn't a great idea, not so much because he kills the blitz like a Patrick Mahomes or like what we talked about with Matthew Stafford last week, but because he's statistically among the worst quarterbacks when not blitzed. I mentioned he had an 84.9 passer rating when he is not blitzed, and that was 25th in the NFL last year. This isn't a quarterback that likes a lot of bodies in coverage, right? He likes to see things open before he pulls the trigger, and by flooding the coverage lanes, that really hurts Ryan Tannehill. And so it's always good to get organic pressure, sometimes for different reasons. But the reason you want to get organic pressure on Ryan Tannehill is because you want to maximize the amount of bodies that you have in coverage, force him to hold on to the football. And when all of those things come together, he's just a less effective player. As you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. You can create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job in the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. LinkedIn has simple tools like screening questions to make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We all know when it comes to sports, teamwork is everything. Every player on the field has their role that contributes to helping their team win. And honestly, it's the same when it comes to game day snacking. Whether it's making the dip or bringing the chips, everyone has their role. And if it's you bringing the chips, let me tell you, I'm about to make you the MVP because Zach's Mighty Tortilla Chips are out here changing the game. These are the best tortilla chips out there. My wife and I, we love them. They're sturdy, they're delicious, they're crunchy, and Zach's Mighty Tortilla Chips are perfect for dipping. You never have to worry about them breaking in half when you dunk them in guacamole. You know what I'm talking about? You don't want to get your knuckles in that bowl of guac. You want it to be clean, and you get that every time with Zach's Mighty Tortilla Chips. And I love that they're grown from organic Flint corn in upstate New York. So be the hero of this week's tailgate and grab a bag of Zach's Mighty Tortilla Chips at your local Wegmans. Zach's Mighty Tortilla Chips, making you the MVP. The offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans is Todd Downing, 42 years old. He's in his second year as the Titans offensive coordinator, his third year overall as an NFL offensive coordinator. He held the Raiders OC job back in 2017. That offense finished 17th in yards, 23rd in points back in 2017 with the Raiders. Last year with Tennessee, 18th in scoring, 19th in yards. He's bounced around a ton. He's been on a lot of teams. His most notable gigs were Lions quarterbacks coach 2010 to 2013. It's actually the Bills quarterbacks coach back in 2014. Raiders quarterbacks coach 2015 and 2016. Of course, their OC in 2017. And then the Titans tight ends coach 2019 and 2020 before taking over as the offensive coordinator last year, and he still holds that position. When it comes to their weapons, we got to start with Derrick Henry, their running back. Big, physical, powerful, and fairly explosive back. I mean, we're talking about 6'3", 250 pounds. He runs a 4.5. I mean, this is a big, powerful, explosive dude. And the Bills, I think, have done a very good job of containing Derrick Henry minus the 76-yard run last year. Let's look back at the last 4 years of playing Derrick Henry. So obviously last year, 20 rushes, 143 yards, 3 touchdowns. 76 of those yards came on one run. He had 19 rushes for 67 yards outside of the 76-yarder. I know the 76-yarder counts, right? It does count. It happened. Maybe there was a hold on that play. But outside of that one carry, the Bills held him to 19 rushes for 67 yards. In 2020, the Bills held Derrick Henry to 19 rushes for 57 yards. That 57 yards, that was the lowest of the season for him that year. In 2019, 20 rushes for 78 yards. That was the 5th lowest output for Derrick Henry that season. And back in 2018, held him to 11 carries for 56 yards. I think the Bills have done a pretty good job on Derrick Henry minus one play. One thing that I'll say about Derrick Henry is that I would be concerned about him if I were a Titans fan. His yards after contact per carry has come down every single year since 2018. So in 2018, he averaged 4.21 yards after contact per carry. 2019, 4.16. 2020, 3.85. Last year, 3.28. I mean, he's lost a whole yard from 2018 to 2021. And he's 28 years old, ton of carries in high school, ton of carries at Alabama, and a ton of carries in the NFL. And so how long can Tennessee continue to lean on this guy like they have? And at what point do they need him to be a complement to another back, right? So you can still kind of maximize what you can get out of Derrick Henry, but also not run him into the ground with 25, 30, 35 touches a game sometimes. The other running back that they do have is Dontrell Hilliard. Spent some time with the Browns and recently came over to Tennessee and has flashed. Ran the ball only twice last week, but he did have 3 catches for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns in the game last week against the Giants. But we all know this backfield is about Derrick Henry. Let's talk about their offensive line. They've got 3 strong players and 2 question marks. Left tackle, Taylor Lewan, rock solid starter. He's been the Titans' left tackle since 2014. He's been really good. At left guard, this is interesting. Aaron Brewer, 6'1", 280 pounds, maybe 290, really small guard. Was a UDFA in 2020, and he's making his 8th career start against the Bills in week 2. Their center, Ben Jones, is a stud. He's been a starter in the league since 2012, been with the Titans since 2016. He's excellent. Nate Davis at right guard. He's a really good young player. Started as a rookie in 2019, a 3rd-round pick. He's been their right guard ever since, and it's his 4th year that he's been a starter, and he's really, really solid. I will say he's a better run blocker than pass blocker, but I think he's on the path to being a very long-term fixture as a starter in the NFL. I mean, he's already in his 4th year of doing it after being the 3rd-round pick in 2019. Then their other spot that I think the Bills could have some opportunity is their right tackle. It's a rookie, Nicholas Petit-Frere, 3rd-round pick out of Ohio State. I thought he could eventually be a starter in the NFL, but I never thought of him as a day one starter like he's proven to be. And so I think that's obviously somewhere that you look and say there's some opportunity there for the Bills to take advantage of a young player with the likes of Von Miller. So you got 3 solid starters in Lewan at left tackle, Jones at center, Davis at right guard, and some opportunities to take advantage of with some inexperienced players in Brewer at left guard and Petit-Frere at right tackle. Wide receiver, Robert Woods is their top guy. Only had 1 catch for 13 yards on two targets last week against the Giants. They traded for him. he's getting a little older. He's coming off of an ACL tear, and they're asking him to come in and be their number one receiver. Their other options, Treylon Burks, their first-round pick this year, a big physical receiver out of Arkansas. He's definitely underdeveloped as a route runner. That's pretty obvious if you watch him play at Arkansas. But he's got size, he's got athleticism, he's got some pretty good ball skills, and he's a player that I'm sure Tennessee looks at as a mismatch type player, that you can get him in the slot against smaller players and use his size and ball skills while he develops his route tree. He had 3 catches for 53 yards last week against the Giants. Kyle Phillips is their slot receiver. He's another rookie, day 3 pick out of UCLA, slot receiver. He led the team last week in receptions and yards, 6 catches for 66 yards last week. I think he's going to be a really good slot player for a while in the NFL. Think about the Cole Beasley, Hunter Renfrow type player, cut from that same cloth. And so I think he'll be a good player. It's game 2. He had a decent start to his career last week. Then there are other receivers. I mean, you got Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, 6'3", 215 pounds, came on a bit for them last year, but had only 1 catch for 13 yards in week 1. So a player that's wanting to command market share, but obviously a slow start for him. And then Cody Hollister is another one of the receivers, kind of a big-bodied guy. He's been in the league since 2017 and has 8 career catches, more of a special teams player. So when it comes to the receivers, it's what do they have in Robert Woods, a couple of rookies in Burks and Phillips, and then, what type of player can Nick Westbrook-Ikhine develop into for them? So, there's no Cooper Kupp here or any like star player at receiver. It's about what can these young players do and what's left in the tank for Robert Woods. And so far, we still have a lot of questions. Obviously, it's early. At tight end, Austin Hooper, Jeff Swaim are their top 2 guys. Jeff Swaim played a lot last week. Kind of surprising. Not a very dynamic player. He did catch 4 passes. Austin Hooper came over after being with the Browns for a couple of years. Kind of a very, I wouldn't call him dynamic, but a cerebral NFL veteran tight end. Going to sit in zones, catch the football, get tackled, right? Just a very regular NFL tight end that's been in the league for a while. They do have a young player in Chigo Okonkwo, a draft pick out of Maryland, who I think has a ton of skill and ability, a very dynamic athlete. Not sure what type of role he's ready to command, but if I was a Titans fan, I'd be really excited about what he can potentially become in the NFL because he's such a dynamic physical talent. So that's the Titans offense, right? I went through the quarterback, the coaching, and the personnel. So what are my keys for the Bills defense against the Titans offense? Well, number 1, it's organic pass rush, rushing with 4, maximizing your opportunities with some of their young offensive linemen, and really taking advantage of the opportunity to put more bodies in coverage. You feel like you should be able to get home with 4, and that means you can drop 7, and when you can drop 7, you can space the field. And so I think when you can do that, you can get organic rush, you can drop bodies in coverage, specifically against a quarterback like Ryan Tannehill. You make him hold the ball and work progressions, and then we know from there that when he holds onto the ball, he's less effective, and he gets sacked a lot. And so I think by getting organic pass rush and dropping 7, you set yourselves up to take advantage of some areas where Ryan Tannehill has not been very effective. Number 2, I would say don't sleep on Tannehill's ability to run. He's definitely a guy that can get outside the pocket and make throws. He can pick up chunks of yards with his legs. So I don't think he's going to come out and run the ball 10 or 15 times, but he'll have 3, 4, 5 scrambles per game where it's just annoying, or he's a very good athlete, and he'll kind of make you forget that he can do that. And then it's, 3rd and 9, and all of a sudden he takes off and gets a first down. So I would say just be aware of that and don't forget about it. Don't allow a drive to extend because you didn't consider that Tannehill is a guy that can get out and make some plays with his legs. Number 3, I have written down, don't let Derrick Henry steal your soul. Look, I have some concerns about Derrick Henry in terms of what he is in the NFL right now, especially coming off of the injury. And, the Giants certainly bottled him up last week, and the Bills have had success against Derrick Henry. But we know what this guy's capable of, right? This is a big, physical, explosive presence that has a really good feel for creating yards in the NFL, and he's been extremely productive. And for as much as I think the Bills can handle him, I also recognize that this is the type of player that can really, really wear down your defense. And so when I say don't let Derrick Henry steal your soul, that's what I mean, right? Don't let him take over the football game. And if anything, I think you maybe force Ryan Tannehill to beat you, right? Force Ryan Tannehill to be the reason that Titans are productive on offense, and make sure that Derrick Henry doesn't get going. And then number 4 is attack some of these young offensive linemen. We talked about left guard Aaron Brewer, right tackle Nicholas Petit-Frere. You got some dudes up front. You got depth on this defensive line. Get Von Miller against Nicholas Petit-Frere and see how that goes for Tennessee. Get Jordan Phillips over Aaron Brewer, who, Jordan Phillips has 60 pounds on him. I'm interested in that stuff and really caving things around Ryan Tannehill. So I think the Bills have some good opportunities here with their defense against the Rams offense, but it's organic pass rush and getting bodies in coverage. Don't sleep on Tannehill's ability to run. Don't let Derrick Henry steal your soul, and attack some of those young offensive linemen where there's some opportunities for the Bills to really dictate some one-on-one matchups. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports information. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including everything you need for week 2 of the NFL season. BetOnline is also your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. It's BetOnline, and it's where the game starts. Let's talk about the Titans' defense. Our defensive coordinator is Shane Bowen. He's young, 35 years old. He's in his second season as the Titans' defensive coordinator and as an NFL defensive coordinator. He's been with Mike Vrabel since 2017, so definitely a disciple. They speak the same language. Was a defensive assistant in Houston 2016 through 2017, linebackers coach in Tennessee 2018 through 2020, and then took over as the DC in 2021. Last year, his first year on the job coordinating the defense, Tennessee finished 18th in scoring and 19th in yards. Last week against the Giants, they gave up 238 rushing yards, 7.4 yards per carry, and 394 total yards to the Giants. So they're looking for a bounce-back performance this week defensively. Let's talk about their personnel. Up front on their interior defensive line, it's all about Jeffery Simmons. He's one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL. A game wrecker, explosive pass rusher, dominant run defender. He's going to get in the backfield. He's going to make plays. So that's their dude. They've got Danico Autry, who's I think a really rock-solid football player. They used him a bit in space against the Giants, which I don't think is a great utilization of his skill set. I think they're searching for some answers with Harold Landry. They're kind of their top edge rusher being injured for the season with an ACL tear. But I think they learned that Danico Autry is more of a hand-in-the-dirt player that you want attacking the A and B gap and not really playing as a true edge player. But if they get him back in the right position, he's a really rock-solid player. And they have some other players, Tier Tart and Kevin Strong, who I think are replacement-level players. But it's all about Jeffery Simmons and Danico Autry up front on this defensive line. On the edge, Bud Dupree is their best outside pass rusher, has a lot of speed and urgency. He plays fast. He's got an unrelenting motor, and I'm sure that they're going to want him to be the guy that's attacking Josh Allen a bunch with his athleticism and urgency off the edge. Then they have a bunch of guys. Rashad Weaver, a draft pick a couple of years ago. He actually had 2 sacks against the Giants. Tested as a plus athlete. We'll see. Ola Adeneyi, another plus athlete, not a whole lot of production so far in the NFL. And then DeMarcus Walker, who's been in the league for a while and has kind of been an average to replacement level player. So when it comes to their edge position, it's all about Bud Dupree. And obviously they really miss Harold Landry, who's an outstanding outside edge rusher. At linebacker, I'm underwhelmed with this pair. David Long, a smaller player, type of guy that you want to go right at. Pretty good in coverage, but certainly a player that you feel like has some limitations playing downhill. And so that'd be something I'd be interested in attacking if I were the Bills. And then Zach Cunningham, who was released by the Texans last year, scooped up by Tennessee. And I think he's been really hit or miss, a bit better of a downhill player than he is a coverage player. And so if you get some opportunities to test him in space in the passing game, I think you definitely want to do that. At corner, a lot of young players here. Christian Fulton is probably their most experienced corner, and that's kind of crazy to say because he's on a rookie deal. Has been up and down. He got beat a little bit last week. He's had some good moments, but a developing young player, but he's not yet arrived. Roger McCreary, a rookie this year out of Auburn, is starting or playing a lot opposite of him. Actually played more than Caleb Farley, their first-round pick from a couple of years ago. So I think we're going to see Fulton and McCreary as their outside guys. Not sure if they're going to sprinkle in Caleb Farley or not, but there's a lot of young players there. There's some athleticism there, but they're really young. In the slot, they'd love to have Elijah Molden, who came on as a rookie for them last year. He's on injured reserve, and so it'll be Yugo Amadi in the slot. And I'm pretty sure they just acquired him recently. I think he got traded twice this offseason, once from Seattle to Philly, and then from Philly to Tennessee. And so, I think that's definitely an opportunity for the Bills to attack as well. At safety, this is the strength of their defense, in my opinion. Obviously, I love Jeffery Simmons up front, but this safety pair of Kevin Byard and Amani Hooker is really good. It's one of the best five in the league for sure. And they're both ball hawks. Byard picked off Josh Allen last year. He picks off everybody. Amani Hooker's a really solid player that they can move around and play closer to the line of scrimmage, but also he's got a lot of range and ball skills as well. And Kevin Byard's kind of your one high guy. So a really, really strong pair of safeties. They're both, they both been paid. Amani Hooker just signed an extension this offseason, and they got a really, really strong pair of safeties there in Tennessee. So what are my keys for the Bills the Bills offense against the Bills defense? Number one is you got to be aware of Simmons and Dupree up front. I don't know that they have a whole lot of other dynamic talents, but those are the guys that can get in the backfield and make some plays, especially Jeffery Simmons. Now, obviously, there's no test like Aaron Donald. And the Bills, I thought, did a pretty good job of managing Aaron Donald. And they'll have another tough assignment this week with Jeffery Simmons. You like that Roger Saffold was his teammate for the last several years in Tennessee, and I'm sure they know each other quite well. But Mitch Morse and Ryan Bates will also be tested with, a really strong talent in Jeffery Simmons, who I think is one of the emerging stars in the league on the defensive line. Number two is you got to be aware of those ball hawks, Kevin Byard and Amani Hooker. I think a big part of Tennessee's path, right, if they're going to have success, is going to be Simmons and Dupree being disruptive up front and relying on Byard and Hooker to drive on the football and be aggressive. And I'm sure that's a big part of their recipe. And they've got the ability to do that with what Simmons and Dupree can do, and of course with the ball skills that Byard and Hooker offer. So you got to have an awareness to that. Number three, I have attack. Test everything with this defense. They gave up almost 400 yards to the Giants last week. They gave up like over 7 yards per carry. Statistically, they weren't that strong last year. Run it, pass it, be aggressive, test everything. There's some matchup opportunities at every level of the field here for you to test. Do it. And I'm sure Ken Dorsey will. But the Bills have a deeper roster that presents a lot of problems for Tennessee on defense. And number four is take care of the football. Take care of the football. Don't go out there and turn it over. You're not always going to be able to overcome 4 turnovers. That was the case last week, but I'm sure a big part of the script that Tennessee needs is obviously a lot of success from Derrick Henry for them to take care of the football and win the turnover battle. And, based on some ball security issues last week for the Bills, I'm sure the Titans are thinking a lot about how they can position themselves well to go attack and hunt the football. So be aware of that and take care of it. So in summary on my keys for the Bills offense, have a plan for Simmons and Dupree up front. Realize that they have some ball hawks in Byard and Hooker. So you want to test the middle of the field, do it, but have an awareness to where those guys are because they have great ball skills. Attack and test everything. You have a deep roster that presents a lot of problems, and take care of the football. Real quick on special teams, their kicker is Randy Bullock. He missed the game-winning field goal last week. He's an experienced player. Been kicking for, I would guess, this is probably 8, 9, 10 years for him. 83% for his career. So he's not automatic at all, but he's a experienced NFL kicker. I wouldn't, especially beyond 40. I think he's like 76% from 40 to 49. He's doesn't have a consistently accurate big leg. So he's okay. Their punter is Ryan Stonehouse, a rookie out of Colorado State. He's the one that beat out Brett Kern, and he was incredible last week. 6 punts, averaged 57 yards per punt, 47 net average, a hang time of over 4.6 seconds. The dude bombs it. So they have the type of punter that can really flip the field if they're pinned back in their own territory. So Jamison Crowder as the punt returner could have some opportunities because he might outkick the coverage a little bit, but I give Stonehouse a lot of credit because 4.64 seconds of hang time is really outstanding, and I think he had a couple inside the 20. So good debut for Ryan Stonehouse. Their returner, they have Kyle Phillips is their punt returner, rookie out of UCLA. Their slot receiver we talked about. He did have a muff last week. So we'll see. Young players, ball handling. Hopefully the Bills don't punt, right? But if they do, Kyle Phillips will be the one handling that. And then Trenton Cannon, he's the kick returner, and he's not a very experienced kick returner. Only 34 kick returns for his career, average 23.8 yards. And we know the Bills are going to test that. And that's why they pay players like Saron Neal and Tyler Medikevich and Taiwan Jones, because touchbacks in the NFL, you get the ball to 25. That's good field position. When you can pin them deep, like last week, they pinned the Rams back at the 11-yard line. I think that's a big strength that the Bills have in this field position battle is you don't just concede a touchback and give the ball to the other team at the 25. No, you make them return it and trust that your plus special teams players can get down there and stop them at the 20 or the 15 or even sometimes around the 10. So, I would test Trenton Cannon and see what he can do in the return game as a fairly inexperienced players with all the talent you have and salary cap space that you have in guys that cover kicks. You can have some opportunities to really put them behind to start some of their drives and not just concede the 25-yard line. So there you have it, the comprehensive primer on the Tennessee Titans. Hopefully you feel very prepared for this football game now that we've had this discussion. We'll continue it tomorrow, our crossover preview. We'll talk to Tyler Rowland of Locked On Titans to help you get even more ready for the game. So don't miss anything. Make sure that you're subscribed. We'd love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow.